Can you do it without smiling? You have to do it dead face, deadpan.
No, please. If not, I'm gonna do it.
Hold like a hammer backwards, like.
Or like,
So wait, you just want me to like?
Just be doing something, you know. I don't know. Hey everybody, Sarah at Nova Motorcycles. This week we're going to talk about a cool event we're having tomorrow at the shop. But before we do that, just we're going to walk by this little beast right here. This is a 1990 BMW K1, one of their kind of rare versions of the K series bikes. You don't see them a ton. All this plastic, super 90s, really more 80s, but it's 1990. Very much a radical bike of its period and pretty cool. So we'll do a video on that later. It's in here for just, it's been sitting for, common start. It's in for too long, getting back on the road again. But we are cleaning up the shop today because we're going to have about 30 people in the shop tomorrow for our introductory class on motorcycles we call Motorcycles 101. What we're going to do is just take a motorcycle and talk our way through it. Basically, the most basic systems. What do things do? We really like to make things accessible, and so we try to just say, hey, what is the most fundamental things about your bike that maybe you don't understand? So as an example, we've done some shorts on this before, but a lot of people see that the side of their tire says tubeless on it, and they think, oh, I must have tubeless tires. No. If you have spokes on your wheel, there's a 99.999% chance that you need an inner tube. That 0.0001% chance is if you have a BMW GS. But so stuff like that, yeah, it's a good time. So we'll try to film some of it, make some videos out of it. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, our display bike here, our demonstration bike, is a 1971 Honda CB350. This bike happens to be for sale. Shameless plug. If you want one of these, hit us up. You can have this very bike. This one's in pretty decent shape. We got it from a customer who didn't need it anymore. We made a trade with them, and we figured we would do some stuff with it and then pass it along. The Honda 350 was basically, we think of 350s now, and especially in the U.S., as small bikes. But the Honda 350 was one of their big bikes of the time. Not quite as big as some other things that really changed. It's sort of the second coming of Honda, the second generation. But it's when they really established themselves. There were a ton of these made. They were relatively cheap, and they could outrun a Triumph 500 easily, and most Triumph 650s and the other English bikes that they were going up against at the time. They didn't leak oil. They all came with electric start. They all had fancy things like blinkers, and they were just small enough that almost anybody could ride them without a lot of help, and they were reliable, and they're really cool. They have become one of the best classic bikes you can own. I always say if you're trying to get into an old bike, you really want a classic bike, this is you can't really do much worse than this. Sorry, I said that backwards. You can't do much better than this. Yeah, you can get yourself in a lot of holes with other bikes, but these are, with a short of a couple of things they have that go wrong with them, they're really reliable. They're really simple. You can work on them. They're very forgiving to somebody who's learning how to work on stuff. What it is a parallel twin. They call it a 350. It's actually a 325cc. It makes, out of the box, I think Honda said it made 33 horsepower, at the crankshaft. So you're mid 20s at the wheel probably. But it only weighs a little over 300 pounds. So it's actually pretty zippy. They had 5-speed gearboxes. This was the next generation that was started with the Honda Superhawks, the CB77s, which was Honda's real sport bike, first sport bike. But those were 4 speeds. Those were 305 cc's, and they had their limitations. So this was faster than the Superhawk, and more of an all-around machine. The Superhawk was sort of a sporty bike. This is a general, standard motorcycle. They started off using drum brakes I'm not gonna try to say what year they changed, but early 70s. Right after a couple generations after this, they switched to disc brakes, single disc front. And then they all had drum rears, 18 inches tires front and rear, pretty simple. Single overhead cam, 2 valves per cylinder. The one thing that is, I mentioned there's something that's kind of Achilles heel on these things. The cam chain tensioner is a plastic wheel. It works fine when they're new, but at 50 years old or more on these bikes, the rubber on it can just is hard by now, and they can break. And when that goes bad, your whole top end goes. So so we see a lot of bikes that have bad top ends, bent valve, stuff like that, because that's gone. So if anybody says, hey, I want to make this bike last forever, we say it's probably worth doing that job. It's not cheap. You got to take the motor out. You got to get into the motor to do it, but it will literally make the bike last for almost ever. As a testament to how good these things are, this is also now the mainstay of classic racing all over the world, where people are racing vintage bikes. You can tune these things to make almost 50 horsepower, even probably, I'm sure some people have gotten them above 50 horsepower, almost doubling their stock horsepower. They're really fast. I mean, I race my 500 Marini against these, and on a shortish enough track, they will beat me every time because they have tons of grunt and they're fast enough on the top end, and they're shorter. They handle quicker. I'm not gonna say they handle better, but they turn quicker than my long Marini 500. So they're really hard to beat on a lot of tracks and with a lot of different kind of bikes. So in our club, they regularly embarrass 750s. They're really great. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching out there have either had one of these or own them now. If you have any thoughts about them, let us know. Yeah. Try to stay tuned for our class stuff. So, and then back to what we're doing on our class. This is not quite everything, but a smattering of how to show stuff. So here's my Veloset project, which is a very simple showing of the piston up and down there. We have a rack of carburetors, I believe from a Suzuki GS. Not 100% sure. There's one side of a camshaft where, one half of a double overhead cam setup that had a failure on it. That's kind of like what you would see if your cam chain tensioner went up there. A couple different kinds of connecting rods. This is fun. We have a giant 500 cylinder head with a very light valve spring in it just to show the valve actuation. So for some people who don't quite understand how the valves are working to get your fuel in and your exhaust out of your bike, that's a little hands-on demonstration there. And then fun different sizes of pistons. A 500 single to a 350cc 4-cylinder, and then a 2-stroke. I actually forget what that is, but it looks kind of like an RD piston, Yamaha 350, and then a little old baby Bultaco 125. But you'll see the 125 single and the 350 4-cylinder kind of the same size. Just different things to think about as you're thinking about engine size, number of cylinders, all these factors that go in together. So we'll have a good time tomorrow. We do a lot of questions and answers. It's very we're zeroing in on the hot sauce selection, important part of any shop. But yeah, we try to make it accessible for everybody, and do a lot of questions and answers. And then last but not least, get my hands clean, we finally have in our hands our 2024 Nova Motorcycles and Lux Machina calendars. So these are awesome. They're available in our store, shameless plug. Lots of bikes, 12 bikes to be exact, of bikes that have been in the shop this year. And photography is excellent. Dates of our friend Tony's track days on there, as well as our racing clubs, race dates, and some other good shows that we like to see. So check it out. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.